What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. We're late night with the podcast. For those of you guys who don't know, this is going to be our new start time. We're going to be going live Sundays, Mondays after Sunday night and Monday night football, and Wednesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that's the new live streaming schedule. I'm going to upload it on the community tab later tomorrow, but I'm glad you guys are on here tonight to join me as I give my reactions to week 4 of the NFL and week 5 of the college football season. We're going to be talking Broncos, Bears, Texans, Steelers, Bills, Dolphins. The Cowboys annihilated the Patriots, and of course we're going to be reacting to the game we just got done watching, Chiefs, Jets, and we got college football too. Before we begin, make sure that you guys go ahead, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified every time we go live so you don't miss a live stream. And most importantly, give us a 5-star review, man. I need you to do me a favor. If you got a smartphone, go to Apple or Spotify podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast at. Type in the JT Sports Podcast and give us a 5-star review. We're trying to get to 100 5-star reviews by the end of October, man. So if you enjoyed tonight's episode and you want to support the podcast, give your boy a 5-star review, man. It helps us out a lot. Remember that we're not just a YouTube channel. Every episode of the podcast is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. All right, I got to get a sip of water before we get into it, man. We got so many things to talk about. Okay, man, so here we go. Broncos 31, Bears 28. If you're a fan of the Chicago Bears, it's time to throw in the towel and find another team to root for this season, because I think your season is over. Because I watched this game, right? And at one point, the Chicago Bears were up 28-7. I was about to turn the game to another one. Bears, I thought you were going to win this game once you had a 28-7 lead. But no, you just had to find a way to blow it. And Justin Fields played the best game of his NFL career in this game. I mean, you talking about this dude balling out in the first quarter? This dude was looking like the black version of Tom Brady. And there was one point in this game where he only threw 2 incompletions. He had completed like 15 consecutive passes, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Justin Fields looked like a completely different quarterback in this game. And despite how well Justin Fields played, throwing 4 touchdowns, he still found the way to blow it in the end. He threw a bat-breaking interception on the final drive, and then before that, he had a big fumble. And we're not going to put this loss entirely on Justin Fields, because Matt Eberflus, what the hell are you doing, man? There was a situation in this game, right? It was 4th and 1. The Chicago Bears had the opportunity to kick a field goal and potentially go up 31-28, right? But no, guess what these fools decided to do? They got to decide to roll the dice and go for it on 4th and 1. And guess what? They don't get it. In Denver, they go down the field and they win the game. Isn't that crazy? Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears lost to Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, a team that last week just got 70 put on them. The Chicago Bears, man, are a dumpster fire. And I think it's time just to go ahead and just call it wraps, wave the white flag, and go ahead and tank. Just go ahead and blow it all up. You might as well. You 0-4. This team doesn't know how to win. They don't know how to come back from behind and win. They don't know how to win by maintaining a lead. This was the perfect opportunity for the Chicago Bears to turn their season around. But instead, they find a way to make their season worse. The offensive line, oh, this was probably their best game, honestly. And the defense, it sucked. Matt Eberflus is a terrible head coach. You want to know how we all know he's a bad head coach? Because his specialty is defense. He was a defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, and we've seen this story before. Anytime you have a head coach that specializes in something and he's not good in that area, and that's the worst part of your team, he's a bad head coach. Vince Joseph's defense was awful. This was the same defense that got a 70 burger put on them last week. Let's not forget that. So, of course, Justin Fields was going to have a good game. But the fact that this game was pretty much gift wrapped for the Chicago Bears and they still found the way to lose shows you that they need to start over. Starting from the top. Get a new GM, get a new quarterback, a new head coach. You just need a fresh start. And I'm not saying this is all Justin Fields' fault, but he just needs a fresh start. Okay? He just doesn't know how to win in Chicago. And the Bears don't know how to win with Justin Fields. And for the Denver Broncos, man, Russell Wilson played a hell of a game. There's been people in the media saying, oh, Russell Wilson has to go. And you want to know what's funny? I've been talking to my guy, Juice, a.k.a. Jamon, and he was telling me, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be going anywhere because he hasn't really played that bad. And honestly, he really hasn't. And he played really well in this game. In the second half, Denver really started letting it rip downfield. Denver's defense was awful. But I'll tell you this, them boys came up with some big plays when it mattered the most, and they're walking away with the win. And it always feels good to be 1-3 versus being 0-4. The Chicago Bears, they potentially could have the number 1 and number 2 overall pick at next year's draft. You trade away Justin Fields, you get you Caleb Williams, and then you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. or Lou Fashanu out of Penn State, and you rebuild off that. But this team sucks. This franchise sucks. Starting all the way up top with the ownership. I mean, the Denver Broncos, man, I really can't believe they won this damn game. Because the Chicago Bears, it really looked like they had a full grasp of this win. And the Denver Broncos, to their credit, they hung in there. Russell Wilson made some really big plays. I saw vintage Russell Wilson. And it looks like he's getting more comfortable in Sean Payton's offense. Like, Russell Wilson was killing it. In the short, quick passing game, he was making big throws downfield to Jerry Jeudy. He made a fantastic throw to Courtland Sutton. And it was a great catch by Courtland Sutton as well. The Denver Broncos got a solid team. I don't think this is a team that should have a losing record this year, regardless of what people may think. And I definitely think this game could be the turning point. Now, I'm not saying the Broncos are going to be able to beat some of the best teams in the league, but I definitely think they should be able to handle themselves against some of the worst teams on their schedule, especially those that have terrible coaching. It's like I was watching this game and I was wondering to myself, how are the Bears going to blow this shit? Because Sean Payton obviously had the coaching advantage, so you wonder when that coaching advantage is going to show up, and we saw it in this game. I can't believe this fool Matt Eberflus really had the audacity to roll the dice and go for it on 4th and 1. Like, what? What's the point of that, man? I swear, these head coaches make some of the most craziest decisions ever. I mean, I know a lot of us would never be head coaches in the NFL. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it and a lot of time that you got to dedicate towards it. But time management is so simple. You can learn time management playing Madden. Madden sucks at simulating real life football, but at least you can find a way to have some realistic clock management in Madden. And these head coaches act like they don't have good clock management or have good in-game decision-making skills. You know that your defense is terrible. So therefore, go ahead and kick the field goal. Worst case scenario, they get in the field goal range and you're going into overtime versus gambling, rolling the dice, not getting it on fourth down, and then putting your liability on the field, which is your defense. And it's crazy that your defense is a liability because you're a defensive-minded coach. Bears fans, you need to go ahead and find another team to root for, at least for this season. You guys get a pass to be a bandwagon for any other good team in the NFL this year. I give you permission to do so, all right? Because there's no way you can support a team that just loves to lose. That's what the Bears like to do. These fools love to lose. If you have not watched this game, at least go and look up the highlights because it's so ridiculous how they lost this game, man. Justin Fields has the best game of his career, and then he still finds a way to blow it. I don't care if win-loss record isn't a quarterback stat. I agree with that notion. But at the same time, Justin Fields is like 5-24 as a starter, dog. I mean, when you got a win-loss record that bad, you may not be part of the problem, but you're not part of the solution. The Bears need to blow it up. The Denver Broncos, great win for you. I won't necessarily say a great game because your defense played awful. Like Vance Joseph, when Sean Payton hired him, I wasn't high on it. I was like, I'm going to give it the benefit of a doubt because it's Sean Payton. Like anytime people ask me a question about the Denver Broncos, like the offensive line and Russell Wilson, you know what my answer is? Sean Payton. That's it. Okay, if you're a Broncos fan, you got to believe in Sean Payton. Sean Payton is a really good head coach, and he showed it because Matt Eberflus looked like a novice. Bad head coaches blow games. Can't believe that crap, man. If you're a Bears fan, you got to change teams. You got to. At least root for a good team, at least for one season. Like, people cannot judge Bear fans for being a bandwagon this year. You just can't. Because after watching this bull jockey, I probably would change my affiliation for the team that I root for if I was a Bears fan. But the Texans dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. Yes, people, you got that right. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Houston freaking Texans, led by outstanding top 10 quarterback CJ Stroud. I don't care if he's 3 games in, all right? I know a top 10 quarterback when I see one, all right? When Justin Herbert came in on a short notice 15 minutes before kickoff, when Tyrod Taylor had that situation that happened with his lung, he came in and he dominated and went off against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You know greatness when you see it. CJ Stroud, he's a dog, and the Texans got their franchise quarterback. And y'all know I love me some CJ Stroud. I don't know what the hell has got into this man, but ever since that semifinal game against Georgia, this man has been playing some outstanding football. He's carried a lot of momentum that he built in that college football semifinal matchup into the regular season of his NFL career because he still has yet to throw an interception. I mean, CJ Stroud, man, this dude shredded the Steelers defense. And I'm a Steelers fan, all right? So you're getting this from an unbiased standpoint. I'm telling you the truth. CJ Stroud absolutely destroyed one of the best defenses in the NFL. I mean, yeah, the stat line doesn't look pretty, 16-30, but if you watch this game, he looked cool, calm, and collected. And it's hard to do that, especially when you're a rookie quarterback and you got Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt coming after you behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. The Texans are down multiple starters on the offensive line, but it didn't matter. CJ Stroud still was standing calm, standing tall in the pocket. I mean, he was absolutely shredding our secondary. These receivers that the Texans have, I love them. All right? Tank Dell, y'all know that's my boy. I did a video about him a couple of months ago. Y'all need to go check it out. Fantastic route runner. We didn't really hear a lot of his name being called in this game, but you still need to look out for him in the foreseeable future. Same thing with John Mechie, but Nico Collins, my brother, you stole the show. You had 7 receptions for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns? You talk about putting yourself on the map. The Texans got a really solid squad, and when they start to get healthy on the offensive line, this is a team that possibly could win the NFC South. Like the NFC South or the AFC South, excuse me, it's up for grabs, okay? Because teams that we thought weren't going to be that great are kind of exceeding expectations. The Colts, the Texans, the Jags are disappointing, but the Titans are still around in the picture. So in terms of being able to compete for the AFC South, I think the Texans got a really good chance. Now, let's get on to the meat and potatoes of this segment, okay? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, y'all know I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a diehard Steelers fan till I die, okay? I came out the womb bleeding black and gold. Ask my mama. This is probably the worst point that I've ever been at when it comes to supporting this team. Now, Mike Tomlin after this game said changes are going to be made. Yeah, your ass better make some changes, Mike Tomlin, because I think your job is kind of a little bit in question. There's no reason why you being a defensive-minded coach should have got shredded by C.J. Stroud. He's a rookie quarterback. You're a defensive guru. You know what that means? Rookie quarterbacks are supposed to struggle against your defense, not thrive against it. The Steelers have no good cornerbacks outside of old man Patrick Peterson. I apologize to you, Patrick Peterson, because I slandered you when we signed you in free agency. I thought that you were washed, and you are up there in age, but the fact that you are our best cornerback shows a lot about the lack of talent that we have at cornerback. Joey Porter Jr., like, why are we not starting this man? We sparingly are playing Joey Porter Jr. Like, he's not any worse than anybody else we've been starting out there at cornerback, so throw his ass out there. Now, Matt Canada should have been gone after week 1. And then last week before the game, I get a notification on my phone from the Bleacher Report app saying that Mike Tomlin is allowing Matt Canada to work closer with Kenny Pickett. Like, what? The last thing this fool needed was to be anywhere closer to Kenny Pickett. You know that Matt Canada got Kenny Pickett injured in this game? Yeah! How? How did he get Kenny Pickett injured, JT? He just caused a play. Let me tell you what this clown did. It's 4th and 1. You know Pittsburgh's offensive line has been terrible the whole entire game. We got Broderick Jones out there, man. The fact that we drafted a left tackle in the first round and we can't start him day 1 concerns me, and I saw why. And then we running our 4th and 1, a play out of the shotgun. And it's not a run play, people. It's a pass play. Run the ball up the damn middle, man. If we can't pick up 1 yard, our offensive line should not be on the field. Honestly, we really are going to call a pass play on 4th and 1, knowing our offensive line has been terrible? Matt Canada, come on, man. Come on. Now, Kenny Pickett is hurt, all right? Oh, my goodness. What are we going to do, JT? Let me tell you something. I haven't even looked into Kenny Pickett's injury. I don't know if he's going to be out for the season, if he's going to be out for a week, or if he's going to be back next week. You want to know why? Because it really doesn't matter. Like, I was telling my homeboy earlier, like, Mitch Trubisky can't do no worse than Kenny Pickett. And I don't really think he's going to be any better. And you want to know something crazy? You know, during that Oregon and Colorado matchup a couple of weeks ago, you know that Pittsburgh sent the scout to look at and scout Shedeur Sanders? I mean, bro, like, Kenny Pickett, I have a hard time defending him. This is my excuse for Kenny Pickett. I always say he's one of those quarterbacks that you can't judge by the stats because he always comes through in big moments, right? The sad thing is that he doesn't really rise to the occasion unless it's a big moment. Anytime Kenny Pickett has been in a close game, he's been pretty good. All right, he had multiple comebacks in the fourth quarter during his rookie season. So he can play in the fourth quarter. It's just that outside the fourth quarter, he plays like dog shit for the first three. And I'm not about to write off Kenny Pickett, but my homeboy said, is that Kenny Pickett, y'all franchise quarterback last week when we were playing against the Las Vegas Raiders? And I said, franchise quarterback? He's our quarterback. I don't know about franchise. So Kenny Pickett is like, does it really matter how long he's hurt for? Because even when he is healthy, he doesn't really look all that better than Mitch Trubisky. And a main reason for this is because of the guy calling the plays. I'm going to just keep it honest with you guys. Kenny Pickett is a low ceiling, low floor quarterback. His ceiling is not high. Kenny Pickett, at best, he'll be a top 12, top 13 quarterback. And you can win with that because Pittsburgh normally has a really good roster and a really great defense. But the problem with having a Kenny Pickett is that you got to have a lot of pieces around him. You got to have good receivers, a great offensive line, a good rushing attack, and you got to have a really good play caller, which the Steelers haven't had since Todd Haley. Okay, Todd Haley was the last great offensive coordinator that the Pittsburgh Steelers had. Ever since Todd Haley was given the boot because of Ben Roethlisberger not really liking him, the offense has been dog water. Randy Fichtner, awful. Matt Canada, awful. Like, there were LSU fans telling me, good luck with Matt Canada. And there were a good amount of LSU fans telling me this, and they don't even watch the NFL. They were like, look out for that jet sweep that doesn't fool nobody. I mean, bruh, Mike Tomlin, I'm so disappointed. So disappointed. For somebody who always preaches accountability and leadership, I felt like he really should have been more accountable with this offense. And I get the fact that he didn't want to mess up anything as far as Kenny Pickett's development, because if you guys go and you look up quarterbacks that have been bust, the quarterbacks that are bust 9 times out of 10 are the ones that go through multiple changes on the coaching staff and that head coach. Marcus Mariota had a new offensive coordinator in Tennessee nearly every single season, and he had 2 new head coaches. Jameis Winston went through several head coaches. So I kind of understood why Mike Tomlin brought back Matt Canada. But at the same time, as a head coach, you should be telling your offensive coordinator, hey, man, like, the shit we did last year wasn't fucking working. So we need to change it. What do we need to do to make this offense better? And it seems like these head coaches never have these discussions, even though I'm pretty sure they do. You think they would. But it seems like they don't, because Matt Canada is running the same offense that he did last year. The offense sucked balls last year, and it sucks balls this year. Matt Canada has to go, and Mike Tomlin said after this game that we about to make some changes. The changes better be Matt Canada getting the pink slip once the plane lands back home in Pittsburgh. You need to block his access to the facilities. You need to revoke his key card access. Get this dude as far away from this franchise as possible. We haven't had a good offensive coordinator since Todd Haley. Maybe we should give him a call. Big Ben is gone. He's retired. Maybe he could be better with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett doesn't seem like a difficult quarterback to get along with. And I want to root for Kenny Pickett. He seems like a nice guy, But it just isn't resonating on the field. And he's been putting in the work. It's not like he doesn't work. It's not like he's slacking. It's just that something isn't resonating. And Kenny Pickett isn't one of those quarterbacks like Justin Herbert that can overcome multiple coaching changes and that can overcome a bad situation. Justin Herbert may be the only quarterback that I can remember that's still been able to be an elite quarterback despite having a bad head coach and multiple different offensive coordinators. I mean, Kenny Pickett, he could be a solid quarterback, but he needs a good offensive coordinator. And if he doesn't have that, he's not going to be good. Props to the Texans for giving the Steelers this loss. Because if the Steelers would have won this game, guess what?
Mike Tomlin still would have had Matt Canada calling the plays. Now, I'm hoping that he changes the play caller. He has to at this point. And I get that you don't want to make drastic changes when it comes to your coordinators, especially this early into the season. But when the offense is this bad, you got to. Like some of these head coaches, I really wonder, what do they be thinking when they decide on certain decisions? Like bringing back Matt Canada, I understand Mike Tomlin's reasoning. But at this point, it looks like you were better off just bringing in a new offensive coordinator with how bad the play calling has been. It only works keeping the offensive coordinator around for your rookie quarterback going into a second season if the guy is actually good at calling the plays. If you got a bad play caller, why would you give him another year to ruin your young quarterback? I mean, props off to the Texans. You guys got a very big win in this game. And I'm not sleeping on the Texans. Like, you boys know that I've been high on Houston all offseason. Like, I've made several videos about the Texans, how they're going to have a top 10 defense, how they could be a 7-win team, maybe 8-win team. Like, I've been really high on the Houston Texans, and I'm not surprised that they won this game. The Houston Texans, you know, they had a better game plan than Pittsburgh, and they just were a better team. And if you have followed the Pittsburgh Steelers for years, very closely, you know that this team always tends to underperform against teams that they are favored to beat. You know, it's always the same thing every single season with Mike Tomlin. Trash offense and the Steelers playing down the competition. But what's new? The Buffalo Bills reminded everybody who they are. They humbled the Miami Dolphins, beating them 48-20. And I mean, oh my goodness. The Buffalo Bills, they really put it on Miami. You know, Miami, it looked like this was going to be a back and forth high scoring affair the first two drives. But after their second possession, the Buffalo Bills clamped Miami's offense. Like, Miami couldn't do anything. The Buffalo Bills defense, they did a really good job at slowing down the Dolphins' quick passing attack. They didn't allow a lot of big plays downfield, the Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and Josh Allen. I mean, you talk about somebody who really rose to the occasion in this game. I mean, Vic Fangio is the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Did y'all know that? And Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators of the past decade. But his defense was absolutely god-awful against Josh Allen. And the funny thing is that the Vic Fangio defense is supposed to limit big plays. So why is it that the Buffalo Bills seem to get a big play every single time Josh Allen dropped back the pass? Gabe Davis caught a touchdown early in this game. Stephon Diggs caught 3 of them. He went for a hat trick. I mean, what's going on with the Dolphins? I know you got injuries, but even with injuries, when your defense is kind of built to be conservative, even with injuries, you don't expect to be getting gaslit like this. I mean, Josh Allen put on a masterclass performance. He was, 21-25? He had 4 or 5 touchdowns? He could not be stopped. The Buffalo Bills reminded everybody to pump the brakes on the Miami Dolphins, people. We still run the AFC East. And, I apologize to the Buffalo Bills because, I'm not going to say I counted y'all out. But I kind of thought that this would be a little bit of a down year for y'all. But even though y'all started the season out really ugly, losing to the New York Jets, you guys have really bounced back in a major way. And you see, the thing about the early portion of the NFL season is that a lot of people in the media, especially myself, because I've done it, you guys seen it, we have a tendency to overreact to things way too early in the year. And the Miami Dolphins, who did they really beat that was really good? It was the same situation last year. The Miami Dolphins had a really good record, and then they had a couple of road games where they got beat up by the 49ers. They got beat up by the LA Chargers, and their season started to go left. And then they were able to backdoor their way into the postseason. But this year, though, You're in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. Even the Patriots are a team that's not an easy outing, despite them getting clobbered today. The Miami Dolphins, man, like, their offensive line was not good. Teron Armstead got injured, bruh. It's like, it's not a matter of can he stay healthy. It's a matter of when this fool's going to get injured, man. It's like every 3 games, Teron Armstead is injured. And you're paying this dude a hell of money. It's like the Miami Dolphins, man. I still like this team. I'm still very high on the Dolphins, but they kind of reminded everybody today why people kind of weren't quick to view them as front runners when it came to the Super Bowl conversation. And it's like, you acknowledge that the Dolphins have a good enough team to win the Super Bowl, but as far as them being in the same tier as the Chiefs and, you know, the Buffalo Bills and whoever else, they're not really in that tier 1 of teams in the AFC. I think they are properly labeled as dark horse Super Bowl contenders. And Dolphins fans told me before the season, we're not dark horse contenders. Like, we got a good chance at winning it. You're dark horse contenders because of games like this. And Tua, he didn't play bad, but he didn't play great. And that's my criticism with Tua. Against great teams and big games, more times than not, he comes up short. And it's not like he comes up small in every big game, but it's just like, damn, they shrunk in this game. And the whole entire team shrunk. Devon A-Chain and Raheem Mostert, they were going off in the first quarter, but outside of that, like, the Bills really made a statement. I mean, there was a point when Miami was just going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. I was like, damn, what happened? I thought we was finna get part 2 of that LA Rams and Kansas City Monday night game that got played in Mexico a couple of years back. I thought that this was finna be the part 2 of that. But just the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills were going to be playing in it. But no, like, the Buffalo Bills defense has been really good this year. Like, really good. And they didn't really have a bad performance week 1. And Von Miller, he's about to return eventually. So this defense is only going to get better. But they did lose Trey White. He's injured once again. I believe he got injured last year. So God bless him, and God bless the Buffalo Bills secondary, but Sean McDermott, it looks like him taking over the play calling has worked out because this defense is playing lights out. Now, eventually, the Buffalo Bills are going to get tested, but when you look at how well they played in this game against the Miami Dolphins, with all that speed, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, they absolutely neutralized those guys, man. The Buffalo Bills, they showed everybody in this game why they still should be viewed as the top threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. Because no other team in the AFC is playing as good as football as the Buffalo Bills are. Maybe outside of the Chiefs, who struggled against the New York Jets tonight, and the Baltimore Ravens. And they lost to the Indianapolis Colts. So it's still way too early in the season to be giving out, you know, accolades and trying to say, oh, this team is legit. Because I got an old saying that goes, you never really know who the true contenders are until after Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving is where the contenders start to separate themselves from the pretenders. And so far, the Miami Dolphins, they look like contenders, but are they going to prove to be pretenders after Thanksgiving? We will see. But the Buffalo Bills improved to 3-1 on the season. The Miami Dolphins suffered their first setback of the year. Before we get into our next slate of topics, make sure that you guys go ahead, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on post notifications. We go live Mondays, Sundays, every day after the Sunday and Monday night games. We go live. We also go live on Tuesday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We talk not just the NFL, but we talk college football as well. If you are a diehard football fan and you just love football, this is the place for you. I got to get another sip of water. Man, we got a lot of people in the chat tonight, man. Like, what are y'all doing up so late? It's 12:15 a.m., man. Like, y'all just love football that much that y'all be up this late listening to me talk about it? I appreciate that, man. And I would also appreciate it if you go ahead and you give the podcast a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. If you're enjoying this episode, go ahead, give us a 5-star review. We go live every day, Monday through Thursday. So go ahead, subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, all that good stuff. Now, the Dallas Cowboys bounced back in a major way. They body bagged the New England Patriots. They beat these boys 38-3. It was not close. And this was a body bag special. And the reason why I'm calling this a body bag special is because the New England Patriots couldn't do anything on offense. They couldn't do anything on defense. They couldn't do anything on special teams. The Dallas Cowboys dominated this game in all 3 phases. And they definitely look like the way better team. And they also look like the better coach team. And there were some people out there, myself included, who thought that the Patriots could win this game because they had the head coaching advantage. Well, obviously, Bill Belichick and his coaching staff, they still aren't really all that better from what they were last year. Defensively, once Christian Gonzalez left the game with an injury, it was wraps. All right, now their defensive line did play well, but it's just schematically, the Dallas Cowboys had a counterpunch for every haymaker that the Patriots tried to throw at them defensively. I thought that Dak Prescott would have struggled in this game considering how he played against the Arizona Cardinals last week. But I mean, he was surgical against Bill Belichick's defense, man. Like, Bill Belichick's defense had no answers for anything that the Dallas Cowboys did offensively. Now, they did get a couple of stops. It's not like they were going up and down the field on New England. A large reason was due to the fact that the Dallas Cowboys defense was putting points up on the board too. And Mac Jones, you would have thought he was Stevie Wonder out there tonight with some of the passes that he was throwing out there. Like, he threw DeRon Bland easy touchdown. Like, there was a pick 6 that he threw before halftime, and then right out the gate after halftime, he went back to him again. You would have thought that DeRon Bland was playing receiver for New England. Hell, you couldn't tell because he probably looked like the better receiver, and he didn't even play on their squad. It's like the Patriots just are lacking the firepower necessary to be able to compete with the best teams in the league. It's like, we know Bill Belichick is still a decent head coach. I don't know if I still can consider him to be an elite head coach, but it's like, you look at the way that Sean McVay's teams are still being able to compete, despite the fact that they have an inferior roster compared to some of the other teams that they be matched up against. But it doesn't matter because Sean McVay is one of the best head coaches in the league. And when you have a great head coach, they find ways to keep you in games that you shouldn't be in. And Bill Belichick doesn't really have that ability anymore. Now, of course, part of that is because Mac Jones isn't really all that great. He's not bad. I thought he was finna have a good game until he started coughing the ball up and giving the pigskin up to the Dallas Cowboys. And then the wide receivers, I mean, outside of Demario Douglas, they don't really got anybody that's really good. And I don't understand why Demario Douglas isn't starting. He's the only wide receiver that looks like he knows how to get open. And then you got, who else is it? Hunter Henry. Yeah, they're tied in. He's been going crazy for my fantasy football team. I know about him, but outside of those 2 guys, the Patriots have no playmakers at receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster looks like a shell of himself. Kendrick Bourne, he's solid, but he's not meant to be your wide receiver 1. And then that running back, Ezekiel Elliott, he's solid. He's been pretty decent this year, but I mean, he didn't really do anything against Dallas. Rahamdre Stevenson, he kind of looks like he's taken a little bit of a step back compared to the breakout year that he had in 2022. The Patriots just aren't really a great team. That's really all I can say about this game, honestly. That's my biggest takeaway. The New England Patriots, they're a mid-football team. They're not a team that you can give the benefit of a doubt because they got the coaching advantage. Now, I believe they play the New Orleans Saints next week. I think they got a coaching advantage in that. Derek Carr doesn't look all that great, and Dennis Allen isn't a great head coach, and I think they could win that game. But anytime they're going up against a team that has a really good quarterback and has a really good personnel on offense, they're going to get blown out. Like, wait until they play the Buffalo Bills. That's probably going to be another body bag special. Like, the Dallas Cowboys got this game over really fast. Like, really fast. This game was not really ever a question. The only big concern that you should have about the Dallas Cowboys from this game is that their red zone struggles are still continuing. They've been struggling in the red zone all this season up to this point, and they struggled again. They went 1 for 4. Now, Dak Prescott bounced back, and the defense was suffocating. Michael Parsons, he's battling through an injury. They were playing him sparingly, only putting him in on special downs and whatnot. But the Cowboys still are one of the top teams in the NFL, despite the fact that they had a really confusing and weird loss to the Arizona Cardinals. You know, this is still a team that has a really good shot at winning the NFC and representing this conference in the Super Bowl this year. Even though they are going through an injury bug and they are losing Trayvon Diggs, Dan Quinn is still a masterclass defensive coordinator, and he put on a masterclass display against the Patriots offense. And it's like, Mac Jones wasn't completely bad. He got benched for Bailey Zappi, but Bill Belichick after the game said that Mac Jones is still the starting quarterback. He didn't get benched due to poor performance. Like, Mac Jones was making some solid throws on third down, some tight window throws on third down. Now, they weren't deep throws down the field, but I thought that Mac Jones looked pretty okay until, you know, he started coughing the ball up and looking like Stevie Wonder. So the Dallas Cowboys are 3-1 on the season. The New England Patriots, man, you just wonder, are they going to be able to turn their season around? Chiefs 23, New York Jets 20. The Kansas City Chiefs survived Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. Boy, I did not see this game coming. Who would have thought that Zach Wilson, the dude who got crushed by Jets legend Joe Namath, got crushed all week by the national media, had the best game of his NFL career? You probably could say that he outplayed Patrick Mahomes for some duration of this game. Like, Zach Wilson balled out in this game. 28-39. He threw for 245 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. This was Zach Wilson's coming out party. At least you would have thought. Until late in this game when he fumbled the football. And the fumble ultimately was the possession where the Kansas City Chiefs sealed the victory. And there was a lot of madness that ensued in this game, especially on the final possession when Kansas City had the ball. I mean, they get the ball back, and then Patrick Mahomes is looking like Houdini back there. Then you get a couple of penalties that get called on Kansas City. But no matter what, Patrick Mahomes, one thing that I love about Patrick Mahomes so much is that no matter what obstacle gets thrown at him, he just keeps coming. And he had an awful game. This is probably one of the worst games that I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes play. But one thing about it is that when the game is in the essence, and the Kansas City Chiefs need Patrick Mahomes to step up and make a big play, he comes through every single time. It's like the New York Jets defense pulled out all the stops in this game. All the stops. Like, this is probably one of the best defensive performances that you will ever see against this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I mean, they pretty much shut down Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce didn't really do much in this game. He got his number called a couple of times late, but that was about it. The New York Jets, they were getting after Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this was a very good performance out of the Jets defense. But at the end of the day, their offense still put them in a compromising situation. And then when you look at the penalty that got called on one of the players in their secondary, Robert Saleh was upset. It was a holding call, and that pretty much put Kansas City in position to seal the game. It's like Patrick Mahomes, he just always keeps coming. You know, anytime you think about doubting him and counting him out, he just keeps coming through, making play after play after play. I mean, no matter what, it's like 3rd and long. He's still sitting back there in the pocket all day to throw, stepping up, making guys miss, running, utilizing his legs. Like, anything that you need Patrick Mahomes to do, he can do. It's just so hard to stop Patrick Mahomes when the game is on the line. Zach Wilson, he had the opportunity to win this game for the New York Jets, and he couldn't come through. And this is the ultimate reason why the New York Jets are in the position that they're in. And it makes you miss Aaron Rodgers even more. And if you're a Jets fan, you gotta really be missing Aaron. Because in a game like this is the game that Aaron Rodgers would have won for you. It was late. You know, Zach Wilson fumbled. If that was Aaron Rodgers, he probably puts you in position to score and win the game. It was so much riding on Aaron Rodgers. And you know, this game was just so poetic. And I think it does a great job of painting the image that is going to be the New York Jets this year without Aaron Rodgers. You know, every game is going to be a dogfight. Everything is going to be a knockout, drag-out brawl. And it's going to be difficult for them to win a lot of games against some of the top teams in the NFL because they don't have Aaron Rodgers. The AFC is full of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You got Mahomes, Lamar, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow. The list just goes on and on and on. And just look at your division. You got to play Tua, Josh Allen. It's like, unless you got an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, you kind of have to have a completely flawless team to be able to make up for not having an elite quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson is like, this dude played his best game. He played his tail off. And he still couldn't come through for the New York Jets. It's like Zach Wilson is going to have to play like this in every single game for the Jets to have a chance. And that's why New York fans are probably missing Aaron Rodgers a lot after how this game played out. You know, like Aaron Rodgers, he's the ultimate closer. It's like you put the ball in his hands, he comes through. There's not too many times that Aaron Rodgers gets stopped. The Kansas City Chiefs, they were on the ropes in this game, man. Like, this was a 10-round fight, and the New York Jets took them all the way into the decision. And at the end of the day, when the New York Jets had to make big plays late, they couldn't execute. You know, Zach Wilson fumbling the football, the holding call on the defense. You know, this is just going to be another one of those games that Jets fans are going to look at and they're going to say, damn, if only we had Aaron. You know, like, if you don't have a great quarterback, you're not going to have a chance at being able to win too many games with how tough the AFC is this year. Now, if the Jets win the NFC, I think they could be a playoff team. The NFC doesn't have a lot of great teams or a lot of great quarterbacks. You know, so the Jets will be way better in the NFC than they are in the AFC, but you still have to somewhat be able to score points. And the New York Jets is just, you kind of got to cross your fingers if you're a Jets fan watching this offense play. You know, you kind of were lucky to get the 20 points. You don't know how many performances from this point forward you're going to get out of your offense that are going to replicate what you got tonight. Hell, them getting 20, they may not get the 17 for another 3 to 4 weeks. Zach Wilson, he did have this team in position to make it to the playoffs last season. But, you know, like in this game, like last season, he put the New York Jets in a situation where they were out of the playoffs. And he put the Jets in a situation tonight where they were out of this game and they eventually lost. You know, it's like, it seems like any game the Jets play in, it's going to be, they gave it their all, but it just wasn't enough. It's going to be like the little engine who could. Robert Saleh is a really good coach. And I really hope that he gets at least one more year because this season is just catastrophic. When you don't have the quarterback situation figured out, it's just so difficult to win against some of the top teams in the league, especially when you got Patrick Mahomes. Like, Mahomes just keeps coming and coming and coming. He's a machine. It's like Jets fans at one point, I know they probably knew Mahomes was eventually going to come through and win this game. And that just has to be so demoralizing. And that's why Aaron Rodgers was, given so much attention this offseason of Hard Knocks. And even then, he was still at the game. You could still feel his presence. But just with him not being on the field, the Jets, they really miss him. The Kansas City Chiefs, this wasn't a pretty performance. But at the end of the day, championship teams find ways to win, despite the odds. And that dude, Patrick Mahomes, like, if you didn't realize what makes this dude special, you had to see it tonight. He didn't play his best games, but the GOATs or some of the greats, it's not about how they start. It's about how they finish. When the lights are the brightest and when the cameras are on and your team needs you to make a big play to win the game, can you come through? Yes or no? Patrick Mahomes comes through 95% of the time. He did this against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like, Mahomes is a boss, man. I just don't know how you can stop this man. I see why the Kansas City Chiefs are just so dominant. They're just a juggernaut. I mean, you talk about ripping the soul out of Jets fans. I mean, this game was a roller coaster of emotions. At one point, the Chiefs were up 17-0. You thought that they were about to put 70 on New York. And then out of nowhere, the Jets, they start moving the ball on offense. Zach Wilson is making some big throws, some nice plays. He's getting outside the pocket. He's picking up yards with his legs. He's looking like the dude that they envisioned when they first drafted him years ago. It's just so crazy that the Jets played their best game. They gave it their all, and it still wasn't enough. You want to know why? Because the Chiefs had Mahomes, and you can say, oh, it's the refs. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens with the penalties that get called, you got to play ball, man. Like, you got to overcome that. The Chiefs had penalties called on them, and they were still able to overcome it. You see, the New York Jets, man, it's going to be tough watching this team play. Because, like I said earlier, they're going to be like the little engine that could. They're going to come close, but no cigar. It's going to be like that one insurance commercial when the dude got like the little dollar bill on the fishing hooks, and you're like, oh, you got to be quicker than that. Oh, you got to be quicker than that. It's like the New York Jets, man. They just got to be better than that. They just weren't able to execute in the fourth quarter. Regardless of the penalties, if Zach Wilson never fumbles that ball, the New York Jets, their defense isn't on the field in that situation, and the holding call doesn't get called. You want to know why? Because they're on the sidelines. But nobody wants to talk about that. It's easy to get mad at the referees and make excuses and say, oh, it's rigged, it's scripted, they just wanted the Chiefs to win. Man, the NFL needs the New York Jets to be good. Well, I'm not going to say they need the Jets to be good, but the New York Jets being good is great for ratings. It's great for viewership. Nobody is plotting against the Jets. Nobody is rooting for the Jets to be awful, unless you're just a fan of the division. So, the Chiefs walk away with the win, 23-20. Let me know how you guys feel about this game down in the comment section down below. Man, I got to get another sip of water. Like, I don't know if y'all heard me choking up. I was trying to fight through it. All right, so now we're moving on to the college football portion of this episode, man. And we had a lot of madness that went on this past Saturday, man. Oh, my God. First of all, Lane Kiffin got his biggest win ever as the head coach of Ole Miss football. They beat LSU 55-49. It was so crazy watching this game. I mean, I had a roller coaster of emotions rooting for Ole Miss in this game because I picked them to win this game. And the reason why I felt like Ole Miss had a good opportunity to win this game is because the majority of upsets that have been occurring in college football have been when the team that's the underdog is at home. And LSU, they're a good team, but Ole Miss, is a really good team also. And a lot of people really have been overlooking Ole Miss. Even going back into this season, nobody really expected Ole Miss to be all this good. But you look at their performance against Alabama, it definitely probably didn't give you a lot of confidence in them going into this game. But Ole Miss has a damn good offense. They got a really good group of receivers. Jackson Dart is playing at a Heisman level. And oh my goodness, LSU secondary is historically bad. This is one of the worst secondaries that LSU has had in a very long time. And ain't this supposed to be DBU? LSU takes so much pride in claiming they're DBU, but they have no good defensive backs on their roster. I mean, Ole Miss, I was surprised that LSU came back when they were down 21-7. Because to be honest with you, once Ole Miss went up 21-7, I thought Ole Miss was going to steamroll LSU in this game. But to their credit, you know, after Jaden Daniels got hit stick, because Ole Miss defense, despite how bad it is, them boys came through in some very big moments in this game, and they did create some turnovers. Like, it was one player on Ole Miss that absolutely destroyed Jaden Daniels. I mean, he laid the kaboom on that fool, and the ball came flying. I was like, damn. And after that, I guess Jaden Daniels just got locked in, and he was just absolutely dissecting Pete Golding's defense. I mean, Malik Neighbors was going off. They had another receiver that was going off. One thing about LSU, they're going to have some great receivers, but they don't have no good secondary. And their secondary costed them this game. And it costed them against Florida State. And I'm really surprised that LSU secondary is this bad. Like, all the guys they brought in from the transfer portal, they were even bringing in guys last year. You would have thought they would have got it right by now. Their front seven is pretty good, but their back end is probably going to cost them. And this is their second loss of the season. I know LSU people are going to say, you can't count us out yet. There's still a lot of ball to be played. And they are a really good team, but their secondary is dog water, man. Alabama, they don't really got an offense, but Ole Miss does. And anytime you face a team with an offense, you're going to have to be able to go point for point against them. And it's going to be, I mean, it's not going to be hard to do that, but it's just that you're kind of going to have to make sure that you have the ball on the last possession. Because if you don't and your defense is on the field, they're going to lose you the game. And talking about defense, I mean, Ole Miss defense, I was surprised that they were able to get out to the start that they did. They got a couple of starts. They got the team out to a 21-7 lead. And after they got that Jaden Daniels hit stick fumble, I don't know what the hell happened to this defense. This defense just fell apart. And when LSU had the ball on the final offensive possession of this game for them, I thought that Ole Miss defense was finna cave. I was like, here we go. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, they're about to blow. They're about to choke this game away. And I picked these fools to win. But their defense, to my surprise, actually got the stop. And I couldn't believe it. And Lane Kiffin, he damn near had a heart attack. Like, if you saw Lane Kiffin on the sideline during that whole entire drive, it's like his whole career was flashing in front of him. I've never seen Lane Kiffin as stressed out as he was the final possession of this game. Because I do feel like there was just a little bit of pressure on Lane Kiffin to win this game. Because I made a segment last week asking, was he overrated? And I did a poll in the community tab, and 75% of people voted that he is. And the reason for that is because he doesn't really have any signature wins prior to this one. This is a really big win for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. I don't think we can stress this enough. Regardless of how Ole Miss season goes, it's like now they control their own destiny. Because if they win out, you know, they potentially could be in the SEC championship, depending if Alabama loses another game, which Alabama definitely could. Because I don't see how Alabama can survive just by having a great defense and a lackluster offense that just can get points based on busting out big runs. But Ole Miss, this offense is one of the best in the country. Quinshon Judkins, he was going crazy. This defense is terrible. But one thing about it is that I think it's more important to have an elite offense in college football than it is to have an elite defense. The programs that have elite defenses, But lackluster offenses, they never go anywhere. Look at Iowa. Look at Illinois. So I'd rather have an elite offense versus having an elite defense. Give me that shit any day of the week. Ole Miss, they can go point for point with anybody. Yeah, they got body back by Alabama, but Alabama's defense is playing at an all-world level. But eventually, Alabama is going to get into a bind when they're going to face a team that's going to have an offense that can put points up on that defense like they did against Texas, and they're going to have a defense that is good enough to neutralize that offense. So, Ole Miss, this is a very big win for this program. Like, the fans, they stormed the field after. They were going bananas. It was pandemonium down there. Like, Lane Kiffin, I thought he was damn near about to break down and cry. Like, I felt so happy for Lane Kiffin winning this game because you could tell, like, he really wanted this game. He was super stressed out. Like, I strongly would have wanted to see what would have happened if LSU would have scored. What would have happened after the game? Like, would Lane Kiffin would have cut ties with Pete Golden? Because I would have. I mean, damn, like, he looked really stressed out. You always see Lane Kiffin as this high, energetic, outgoing guy. But in this game, like, he really looked this stressed out. But Ole Miss came through with the win. LSU, you got to fix that secondary. All right? I mean, it doesn't matter how good your offense is if you have a trash secondary. Now, can you go point for point with nearly any team that you play? You can. But at the same time, what's going to happen when your offense is going up against a top-notch defense? Like right now, you may think you got a great chance at beating Alabama, but it's like your defense, your secondary, they probably could give us some big plays. And one thing about Alabama, they got a very good defense. Their defense is good enough to slow down your offense. Even though Texas put up a lot of points on that defense, Texas has one of the best rosters in college football. So for LSU, man, that secondary is really bad. They got to clean that up ASAP. And Ole Miss, their schedule is about to get really interesting. Okay, because we're now about to see Ole Miss go through the SEC gauntlet. Because they don't have no more easy games. Like, every game is going to be a knockout, drag-out brawl. Ole Miss, you know, like, they lost to Alabama. And I was eager to see how they were going to be able to respond. Because for Ole Miss, you know, they almost lost to Tulane. Tulane was putting it on them in the first half until they woke up in the second half. And then they lose to Alabama last week. Normally, when teams lose to Alabama, their season kind of falls off the rails. But the fact that they were able to bounce back in a big way and they improved to 4-1 on the season, they got to play Arkansas, Auburn, Vanderbilt. You really like their next 3 games. And you like them to be able to go into that Texas A&M game 7-1. And then maybe you beat Texas A&M. And then you got to play Georgia on the road. Imagine we only have a 1-loss Ole Miss team against Georgia on the road. I mean, the SEC is wide open this year. You guys may not think that Ole Miss doesn't have a chance at winning this thing, but they definitely do. And I think that Alabama has the way tougher schedule to close out the end of this season than what Ole Miss does. So I could definitely see Ole Miss maybe with only 1 conference loss to Bama, and Bama maybe with 2. It's no guarantee that Bama's going to be able to beat LSU. I mean, with how Alabama's offense is, with it being so inefficient and inconsistent, there are going to be games that are going to be close where they're going to need their offense to score points late, and they're not going to be able to do it. So Ole Miss is walking out with the win, 55-49. Colorado and USC played in an absolute classic. Oh my goodness, this game was a roller coaster ride. At one point, it looked like we was about to get Colorado versus Oregon part 2 because USC, they were really putting it on Colorado. At halftime, it was 34-14. Now, watching this game, Colorado looked way better in this game than what they did against Oregon. Against Oregon, they didn't even look like they deserved to be on the field with those boys. But in this game, their offensive line actually gave Shedeur Sanders a little bit of time to throw the football. Now, he was still running for his life back there. He was still getting sacked hella times, but this offensive line, they gave him some time to throw the football, and they also opened up some running lanes for these running backs. For the first time this whole entire season, Colorado, you know what they were actually able to do? They were actually able to run the ball in between the tackles. That's something that they've been struggling to do all season. Now, their wide receiver core is super deep. Okay, everybody was like, who's going to step up with Travis Hunter going down? They got Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr., but then they got this outstanding true freshman named Amarion Miller, who was going off in the second half like out of nowhere. This was so random. This true freshman wide receiver was just coming into the game in the third quarter. I guess Deion was like, man, F it. We down hella possessions. Let's throw those young guys in. Like, I'm pretty sure Deion Sanders was probably on the sidelines like, man, y'all out there acting like y'all don't want to play. We gonna put some people in there that want to be in there then. That boy put Amarion Miller on the field. He was going off. And then we finally saw Cormani McClain. And boy, he did not disappoint. He had a really nice breakup on Brendan Rice in the goal line. Cormani McClain, he was locking those boys up. And I really hope that Deion Sanders starts him, because the other cornerbacks that Colorado has had out there, they aren't it, man. Number 3, he's a good tackler, but he's a liability in coverage. Like, Colorado has no great cornerbacks. And it's really surprising because Deion Sanders is one of the greatest that ever played that position. You think he will have a great eye for cornerbacks, but he just doesn't. So Cormani McClain, he needs to be out there. Now, he is 165 pounds, but I don't really think that means anything, because most of the receivers that we see in today's age of college football, they're like around the same weight too. They're no bigger than 175, and he does have pretty good length and athleticism. So I don't really think him being 165 or 170 is really going to hurt him too much. He's a dog. He needs to be out there. Now, when you look at USC in this game, their offense was flawless, but they do have some issues on that offensive line. Their offensive line is not bad, but it's not as good as what it was last year in 2022. In 2022, they had a really good offensive line, one of the best in all of college football, in my opinion. But in this game, there were times when Colorado was really able to get after Caleb Williams, especially in the second half. So with their offensive line, I think that's kind of going to hinder them when they really start to go up against teams that have the same level as talent as them. And then defensively, you know, people will write about Alex Grinch. This defense is better, but it's not good enough to beat a Oregon or a Washington. We just got to keep it 100. We got to keep it a stack. If you're a USC fan, do you really think this defense is good enough to get you a key stop to beat Oregon or the Huskies in the Pac-12 championship? I mean, you know your offense can go point to point, can go point for point with anybody because you got Caleb Williams and company, but you still need to be able to get key stops. There's no guarantee that your offense is always going to have the ball last to win games. Bo Nix gets the ball last against this defense, they're driving it downfield and winning the game. Same thing with Michael Penix. Your defensive line is a lot better, but I still think that it's not up to the level that it needs to be when you're trying to win in the toughest conference in college football right now. Oregon has a stout offensive line. Same thing with Washington. And against Colorado, I mean, you were getting pressure on Shedeur Sanders, but your secondary was giving up a lot of big plays. It's like you would have expected for USC's defense to look like how Oregon's defense looked. With the caliber athletes they have, guys like Bear Alexander, one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football. They got some really good players on that defense. But that defense isn't performing up to the level of talent that they have. And Alex Grinch, this dude is going to be the death of Lincoln Riley being able to win the national championship. You don't need to have an elite defense to win a national championship. You just need to have a good enough defense that's around top 40, top 50. That's good enough. You just need to have a defense that gives you a chance to win a game or can get a couple of stops here and there. But USC's defense in the second half of this game, they got shredded. And you can say, well, they were up, so maybe they took their foot off the gas. Okay, so what's going to happen if you're up big against Washington or Oregon? You just going to take your foot off the gas there? Like, Colorado should be the last team that you want to take your foot off the gas for. They got a great quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, and they got a team that's highly motivated. Like, Deion Sanders, I'm pretty sure with how those young guys were playing, like, they were ready to prove a point. Like, the way Carmine McClain was out there playing, he was playing looking at Coach Prime like, yeah, like, you better be starting me next week. Like, bump all that junk you was talking before the game and all the week leading up to it. Man, you need to make sure that I'm starting next week because I'm better than any other cornerbacks that you've had starting over me. Like, Carmine McClain needs to be starting. And imagine how good this team's going to be when Travis Hunter comes back. Now, I had Colorado winning more than 3.5 games this year. I came out and I told you I think they're going to be a 7-win team this year. Now, they've hit a really brutal stretch in the schedule. Okay, last 2 weeks, really tough. Oregon on the road. Do you know how hard it is to win at Autzen Stadium? They call that stadium the zoo for a reason. Really difficult to win there. And they got steamrolled. And they gave Oregon some extra motivation. Their players were stomping and stepping on their logo. They were getting into it with Oregon players before the game. Like when Dan Lannon said, we going to talk with our pads, I understood where he was coming from. Okay? And Colorado just got outmatched in that game. But you look at how they played against USC, it definitely gives you a lot of optimism with their next 2 games coming up. They got to play Stanford, Arizona State, then they got a bye week before they got to play UCLA on the road. They should be able to clobber Stanford and Arizona State. Those are 2 of the worst teams in all of Power 5. Now, they probably won't blow out neither one of those teams. You'll probably see more games similar to like Colorado State, even though Colorado State has proven to be a way better team than what we gave them credit for. Like, they're on a 2-game win streak ever since that loss to Colorado a couple of weeks ago. Now, when you look at Colorado with how their roster is, the roster has weak points. So when you got a team with deficiencies, you can't expect a dominant performance out of these boys every single week. Now, there's some people out there that think that I'm one of those people that's part of the Deion tax that Josh Pate was talking about. You know, there are people that think I'm a casual and I'm just gassing up Deion Sanders and I'm just on the bandwagon. But no, like, if you guys actually go and you look through my videos before the season, I was on the hype train before anybody even boarded on that thing. I picked them boys to beat TCU. Like, I was yelling on this microphone all summer that Deion ain't go all the way to Boulder, Colorado to win some damn 3 games. Now, I get why people consider me a casual. You feel me? Like, it's a lot of people that keep saying, oh, you're part of the Deion tax that he was talking about on Twitter and Instagram, because I made an Instagram reel saying how I believe that Colorado was going to beat Oregon. And it did massive traction. All the Oregon pages were posting it. Barstool Oregon posted it. And then, of course, when Colorado got beat down, everybody was making me eat those words, boy. And a couple of Oregon players even reposted it. And that's when I started reading the comments, and they was like, yeah, you're just a casual fan. Like, you just started watching college football. Like, no, like, I've been on the Colorado hype train before people even started boarding the station or even getting on the train or even, riding to the station. And you guys can go look through the videos. You feel me? So I think that a lot of people got this misconception that Colorado was supposed to be this great team. Like, they were a team that overachieved. They were not supposed to be 3-0. Now, just because I had them at 3-0, I just had them at 3-0 because I really believe in Shedeur Sanders and I believe in Deion Sanders. And I thought they were going to beat TCU just off the sheer merit that, yeah, it was on the road, but it's week 1. And if you follow college football, you know that in college football, a lot of upsets occur in week 1 because teams come out rusty. You got to replace a good amount of your team that you lost from last year. And I just thought that with Colorado, just the unpredictability that they were going to have, it just was a game that favored them. I was really surprised that they were a 21.5-point underdog considering everything that was in question about TCU going into that game. And then they blew out Nebraska. That was expected. Nebraska was terrible. When you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't really matter if you got a better team all around. Like, you got no quarterback. You got no offense. You're done. And then, they nearly lost to Colorado State. Okay, that's what you expect. But it's like, for those of you guys who think that Deion Sanders was supposed to win a national championship or something like that, like, no. One of my homies said, I'm going to believe next year. Like, the expectation was to be better than what they were last year, which they already exceeded. Anything else is just, a cherry on top. And Deion Sanders, of course, like, he wasn't going to be satisfied with no three wins. And of course, before the season, you ask him what his expectations was. Of course, he's going to say, we won it all. Why not? Of course, because that's Deion Sanders. But in his mind, a successful season is 6 to 7 wins. You feel me? Now, of course, he wants to win it all. His goal is to win it all, but he would be happy with the 7-win season. You feel me? Now, a 3-win, now, even if they only win 3 games from this point forward, I don't think he would be happy with that. And that's not me having over-realistic expectations for the program. That's just me, looking at Deion Sanders and knowing the kind of person that Deion Sanders is. You see, the reason why I believe so much in Colorado is because I believe in Deion Sanders. This dude is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest athletes ever. He played both football and baseball and played both sports at a pretty high level, even though he was a Hall of Famer in football. To be a Hall of Famer, it takes a certain amount of dedication and work ethic. And I think that a lot of people misunderstand Deion Sanders. They see all the shenanigans, the flash. He can come off a little bit cocky at times, and it rubs people the wrong way. But it really rubs people the wrong way when you're arrogant, cocky, and you got a big ego, and you're really freaking good. So, of course, people are going to be really, either you hate Deion Sanders or you love Deion Sanders. And, of course, the people that are detractors of Deion Sanders are going to try to find every opportunity to, try to make him look like Colorado is being overhyped and things like that. Like, bro, Colorado's not overhyped. Like, everybody was excited to watch this game despite what happened last week because it was Colorado. We were going to see Shedeur Sanders versus Caleb Williams, and it didn't disappoint. But also, it's the Deion effect. People want to watch Deion Sanders. My grandparents are watching college football, something they've never, ever watched because of Deion freaking Sanders, bro. Like, it's people in your family that probably never watched college football before that's watching college football now because of Deion Sanders. They want to see what the hell Colorado is about to do. So, like, the people that are calling me a casual because of one viral video that I made on Instagram, like, bro, I was trolling. It's Instagram, it's social media. I don't really take myself that serious on there because the only way people really view you is when you're doing shit like that. You feel me? And it's crazy how people watch that video, but nobody watched the video I made when I had Colorado beating TCU. I literally came out and said that TCU was going to lose. And that reel is still up there, but everybody want to pay attention to the Oregon and Colorado one. I'm not no casual. I've been on the Deion Sanders and Colorado bandwagon and on the hype train before it even left station. Go through the videos, man. Like Deion Sanders said, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. You probably can say I'm a Miami Hurricane fan and a Colorado fan at this point. Like, I still believe in Colorado. Like, Colorado had a tough 2-game schedule. Like, they played two of the best teams, not just in the Pac-12, but in all of college football. Like, there was a severe, talent advantage that those teams had compared to Colorado. So, overall, Colorado, I was really surprised to see how much they were able to test USC in this game. This was a one-possession game. Like, I picked Colorado to cover, but I didn't think they were going to make this a one-possession game. And with some better clock management, if Colorado could have gotten one more possession, they probably could have put this game to overtime or sent it to overtime, excuse me. But for USC moving forward, they're a good team. I got them making it to the Pac-12 championship, but I got them having 2 losses. I just don't think they're better than Washington right now. And I think Washington is the best team in college football, in my opinion. I just don't think that USC's defense is good enough for them to win the Pac-12. Now, do they have a championship caliber defense? I mean, I think they do. I think their defense is capable of being able to get stops. They were shutting down Colorado's offense early in this game. Like, this is a defense that has talent. They're capable. It's just the Pac-12 is just so stacked. You're not going to be able to outscore Oregon and Washington when Oregon and Washington have some pretty legit defenses, especially Oregon. So for USC, it's going to be hard for them just to get through their schedule unscathed by just saying, fuck it. We got Caleb Williams and we can just outscore you and we can out-scheme you because we got Lincoln Riley. Like, that's cool. It sounds easy in theory, but the Pac-12 is a dogfight, man. And if you don't have a good defense, you're going to be in trouble. Like, if Utah had a fully healthy team, they probably could be the best team in the Pac-12 right now. Like, injuries have severely derailed them, but their defense has played at an insanely high level. Imagine if USC had Utah's defense. They probably would be the best team in college football right now. But give me your thoughts on USC being able to outlast Colorado. I had a lot of things to say. Now, the last thing we're going to get into is this. Kentucky terrorized Florida. They beat them 33-14. And I heard somebody tell me that defensive coordinator for the Gators, Austin Armstrong, is going to be having some severe nightmares over the next couple of days about Ray Davis. Ray Davis, you talk about somebody who was looking like a damn god on a gridiron. Every single time he touched the ball, big play, big play, big play. And what's crazy is that I'm just seeing this man average nearly 10 yards per carry, and I'm like, bruh, Florida has a pretty legit defensive line. Like, you come out of this game thinking that Florida's defense just wasn't good, but people seem to forget that this was the same defense that held Tennessee's offense to 16 points. So I don't think that Florida's defense and Austin Armstrong are trash. I just think that Kentucky just was the more physical team than them, and their offensive line is legit. We're going to give Ray Davis his flowers, but the big blue wall is back. Kentucky for years has always had one of the best offensive lines in college football. And last year, they probably had the worst offensive line that they ever had under Mark Stoops. This year, this offensive line is playing at a really high level, and you definitely saw it in this game. Now, Ray Davis, he was making guys miss left and right. He was running guys over. He has incredible vision. This dude is a really explosive back. And he's an NFL back, in my opinion. I think that he kind of has a little bit of some similarities to Kenneth Walker in a sense. He's really explosive, really powerful. I mean, he hits the hole and he's gone. And not just that, but he has this rare blend of elusiveness and power. You know, he can run through you, but he can also run away from you. He can hit you with a juke move, a spin move. Like, this Ray Davis guy, I'm probably going to have him on my Heisman watch list when it comes out later this week, because I think he's going to be one of the best running backs in college football. And this was pretty much Kentucky's entire offense. They had 280 rushing yards. He had 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 receiving. Kentucky's offense outside of Ray Davis didn't do anything. And, you know, Kentucky moving forward, I'm really trying to figure out, when is Devin Leary going to wake the hell up? Because this does not look like the same Devin Leary that I saw at NC State when he was one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. I mean, this Devin Leary just looks like a worse version of Will Levis without the athleticism. He's turning the football over. He's really inaccurate. I don't know if he's still a little bit rusty because he did miss a good amount of time due to that injury, but he's been a major flop, a major disappointment. He was one of the best quarterbacks coming out of the transfer portal. And he is going to have to play better if Kentucky is going to try to be unbeaten with their next 3 games. They got to play Georgia next week. And Georgia, their defensive line, doesn't look like the same defensive line that we've seen the last 2 years up there in Athens. They got gashed by Auburn. So you look at how Kentucky did Florida in this game, they very well could do Georgia the same way. They got some mean, nasty guys on that offensive line for Kentucky. So you're telling me after having 4 or 5 wins is a good achievement? I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll get to that later. But when you look at Kentucky, you know, the fact that they're undefeated right now, even though they didn't have a tough schedule, this was their prove-it game. You know, Florida, they already proved themselves. They beat Tennessee. I don't think that this loss should change anything about how you view Florida in terms of them being able to be a bowl-eligible team. Like, people making it seem like Billy Napier needs to be fired and drastic changes need to be made. Like, they just didn't shut down Tennessee's offense a couple of weeks ago. You know, they had a really bad performance. This is a really alarming performance. You know, and Austin Armstrong, he definitely does deserve a good amount of criticism for this. But, you know, we just got to give hats off and just say that Kentucky's offensive line just bullied Florida. And their defense bullied Florida's offense. Like, you knew this game was over for Florida once they were down multiple possessions and they couldn't run the football. The way Florida wants to win games is that they want to keep them close. They want to run the football. They don't want to ask Graham Mertz to have to win the game. Kentucky forced Florida to put the ball in Graham Mertz's hands. And Graham Mertz, I mean, looking at this game from the box score, it looked like he had a pretty decent performance. But if you actually watch this game, it's just, you know, it's just he's playing in a super conservative offense. And he kind of himself is already a super conservative quarterback. So this is an offense that they don't really take a lot of shots downfield that often. Now, they do have the ability to hit a couple of big plays here and there like they did in this game. But overall, like, this is an offense that if the run game isn't going, they're not going to have a lot of success. And there's 2 ways to stop the run. Either you stop it outright by your defense just stuffing the run game, or you just get up by so many possessions that the only way that team can come back is by throwing the ball. Kentucky did both. And Florida has a pretty good offensive line. And I'm surprised that Kentucky went for damn near 300 yards with just one player on the Florida defense that ranks really high amongst the rest of the run defenses in the SEC. Like, Florida's run defense was really good coming into this game. Both of these teams had 2 really good run defenses. But I guess we saw who had the better of the 2 in this game. Like, Kentucky just was a bowling ball. Ray Davis, like I said earlier, Austin Armstrong is going to be waking up tomorrow morning with nightmares of Ray Davis. I mean, Ray Davis just terrorized and torched Florida's defense. And I was just shocked watching it because Florida has some really good defensive linemen. He is a really good running back. And if Kentucky is going to remain unbeaten, they're going to need him to repeat the performance that he had against Florida in their next 3 games against Georgia, Missouri, and Tennessee. Because Devin Leary, he doesn't look it. And until he wakes up, I don't really see how Kentucky's offense is going to do much against Georgia. Now, if Devin Leary plays well, they got a really good shot to beat Georgia because they got some good receivers. They got a really nice offense. They just need a damn good quarterback. And Devin Leary has not been that. He's been really bad. And if Florida was able to shut down the run game, I really wonder how this game would have went. This would have been a knockout, drag-out defensive slugfest if Ray Davis didn't have the performance that he had. I mean, Devin Leary, he's been a massive disappointment, man. I thought that he was going to be really good this year. I thought that he was going to be a top 3 quarterback in the SEC. This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in into this late night episode. I'm super tired, man. I'm mispronouncing words. I'm just ready to go to sleep, but I'm glad you guys tuned in for tonight's episode, man. Remember that we're going to be going live every Sunday and Monday night after Sunday and Monday night football, so we will be going live after the Monday night game. We talk not just the NFL, but we also talk college football. We just love talking football. If you're a football fanatic like me, you live, eat, breathe, sleep football, this is the right place for you. Make sure that you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we go live. And we're not just a YouTube channel. We're a podcast, and you can find us on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, you can listen to the JT Sports Podcast. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, give us a 5-star review. Comment a question, comment a suggestion that you have, and I will read it on the channel. Like any question that gets submitted through the Apple reviews, I will always make a segment about. So if you have a question that you would like answered, leave us a 5-star review and leave a comment, the question that you have in the review section. But just go ahead, give us a 5-star review, share the podcast. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in tonight. We're going to briefly read the chat. Shout out to everybody, Lucrative, Wilson, Courtney Miller. They still have a lot to learn. They have to learn how to win on the road. Here's the thing. He was at Colorado with the same players. No one had that same energy. Man, Colorado doesn't have a super talented team, though, Courtney Miller. Like, they don't have one of the best rosters in college football. Everybody, have you not seen their offensive line? If you don't see the difference between their offensive line and the rest of everybody else's offensive lines in the Pac-12, then that's kind of a you problem, man. Like, Colorado wasn't expected to win a national championship. Vegas had them winning 3.5 games for a reason. Now, have I overrated them? I don't think I've overrated them. The only reason people think that I've overrated or overhyped Colorado is because I had this team winning more games than what most people expected. You talk to most people, nobody was willing to have Colorado winning more than 4 or 5 games. I'm really one of the few people in this world that actually believe that Colorado is going to be a bowl-eligible team. But me, having faith and belief in Colorado being able to win 6 or more games isn't me overhyping the team. It's just maybe you guys were wrong about this team. Maybe this team was better than what you guys gave it credit for. But the thing is that Colorado went 3-0. And the fact that they beat TCU and they were undefeated, people who don't really keep up with college football like that, or the people who, kind of want to pick and choose when they want to go ahead and try to say, oh, Colorado is overrated, they use the Oregon and USC games as examples. But the thing is that nobody expected them to really win those games outside of me and maybe a small group of people. You feel me? A small group of people doesn't speak for the majority. Majority of Colorado fans knew that game was finna be a bludgeoning. And nobody really thought that game was going to go the way that it did against USC. So for Colorado, it's like, that game against USC should just be a little bit of a warning. Wait until Deion Sanders goes into the transfer portal this offseason and they fix that offensive line and that defensive line. And I'm pretty sure that the whole entire alumni is going to give him all the money that he needs to be able to, pay for a better roster. That's pretty much what he's going to be able to do, pay for a better roster. Like with NIL and the way recruiting is now, Deion Sanders doesn't really need to have all the resources that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart have to be able to out-recruit those people or be able to recruit on the same level as them. Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State are still going to have, the top recruits. They're still going to beat Deion Sanders out for most of them. And they probably are going to have higher recruiting classes than them. But the advantage that Deion Sanders has that the rest of coaches in college football don't have is that it's Deion freaking Sanders. Simple as that. If Nick Saban knocks on your door and your mom and your pops are there, you really think your people are going to know who Nick Saban is or Kirby Smart is unless they really follow college football? No. And most older people don't follow college football, but most older people know who Deion Sanders is. Your mom knows who Deion Sanders is. Your dad knows who Deion Sanders is. Hell, your great-grandma, your great-grandpa knows who Deion Sanders is. Everybody knows who Deion Sanders is. So therefore, when Deion Sanders walks in your living room, he already has the advantage because your people already like Deion Sanders. They grew up loving Deion Sanders. Your mom probably was like, oh yeah, I remember Deion Sanders with that bald head. Yeah, so with Deion Sanders, even though he doesn't have the resume that a Kirby Smart and Nick Saban or a Dabo Swinney or Ryan Day have, he has the fact that he's Deion freaking Sanders. And just based off that, most of these recruits are going to want to listen to Colorado. Like, most of these recruits are taking visits up to Colorado. A lot of these top 5 players in their positions, or a lot of these 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, or whatnot, they have Colorado in their top 5 or their top 10. They at least are listening to Deion. They're entertaining Deion. Before Deion arrived at Colorado, those recruits would never listen to Colorado. They probably wouldn't even read a text message from them boys. Same thing when Deion Sanders went to Jackson State. Deion Sanders went to Jackson State, and he was building a juggernaut down there. So for Deion Sanders at Colorado, the fact that, he's one of the most popular athletes ever, it gives him a little bit of an advantage over the rest of the coaches in college football. It's Deion Sanders. He doesn't need the same resources that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart have. It's Deion Sanders. He is the resources. You feel me? With Deion Sanders, media attention, media coverage. More media coverage, more publicity. What does that mean? More money, more revenue to put into the facilities. Deion Sanders, he's kind of is the program. You feel me? So for any school that tries to hire Deion Sanders away from Colorado, Colorado, of course, is going to fall off the map unless they just are able to nail their next hire at head coach. Because Deion Sanders is the program. The recruits are going to follow Deion Sanders anywhere he goes. He's probably one of the few coaches that could up and leave a school whenever he wants to, and it doesn't matter to most of the guys that he recruited out of high school, because they're just going to follow him, and most of the roster is going to follow him too. It's Deion Sanders. He resonates with, adults, older adults that know about hard work, that know about dedication, that know about discipline. He resonates with kids because it's Deion Sanders, and he's trying to be a father figure. He's trying to be a mentor to these kids. So all this Colorado is overhyped and overrated. You just got overexcited and started overhyping Colorado. People just get, upset because people get a lot of media attention, get a lot of media coverage. You want to know why people cover Colorado? Because people want to see Deion Sanders. You want to know why? Because Deion Sanders is polarizing. Either you love him or you hate him. I love him. You may hate him. And since you hate Deion Sanders, anytime you see a Deion Sanders social media post and you engage on it and you talk about how much you don't like Deion Sanders and you comment that, guess what happens? When you engage with it, you get recommended more. So if you don't like Deion Sanders and you're tired of the Deion Sanders post, just ignore him and keep scrolling. Why do people just hate success? I think that Colorado is a very good story. Colorado, what they've done, what Deion Sanders has brought to college football cannot be overstated. College football is doing NFL viewership numbers, man. Any Deion Sanders game that gets played is one of the most viewed games, if not the most viewed game. He's breaking records. I'm eager to see the statistics that come out about who tuned in, who woke up at 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and who was up at 12 noon on the East Coast to watch Colorado USC. In a game where most people thought that Colorado was going to get blown out. All the celebrities they had at that game. You go to a Colorado game with Deion Sanders there, and it's just a complete, phenomenon. The stars are out. It's just Hollywood stars here, rappers here, B-list celebrities there. But to end this episode, I just want to say I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. We're going to be live tomorrow after Monday Night Football. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we go live. And give us a 5-star review for the last time. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, you want to support us, give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All you got to do is type in the JT Sports Podcast on Apple and Spotify, and it will pop up. Or if you don't feel like typing, go to the description down below. There will be the links to Apple and Spotify, links to the podcast. Go ahead, give us a 5-star review. And I will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.